So I had a patient who was dying of cancer, right? And she was pretty much bedbound towards the end of her life. And towards the end of her life, she found out that her husband and her best friend were having an affair. And they had been having this affair for almost a decade now. So the best friend sees her before she passes, and the wife tells the best friend, "If you marry my husband, I will haunt you." And the best friend didn't believe in ghosts, so she just brushed it off. No big deal, right? And before she dies, her daughters come to visit, and she tells her daughters, "I want to be buried in my wedding dress." Daughters say, "Fine, no big deal." And within a week, unfortunately, she passed away. So the husband goes to the mortician for the final viewing to make sure everything's okay, and he sees his wife in the wedding dress. And he says, "No, I don't want her buried in that." And the daughters say, "Well, this is what mom wanted. It was her last request." And of course, he's like, "Well, it's just really hard for me to see your mom in our wedding dress. Like, it's just too hard for me." He gets his mother-in-law on the side, who convinces the daughters to not bury her in the wedding dress and to bury her in something different. So the mortician takes the dress off, gives it back to the husband, right? 90 days after the wife died, he's marrying the best friend. And since the best friend helped her pick out the wedding dress, guess what she's wearing? That's right, the wedding dress that the dead wife wanted to be buried in. So she puts on the dress and she's at the church waiting to get married. And all of a sudden, she starts breaking out in a rash. And the rash turns into hives. And next thing you know, she's short of breath and can't breathe. And everyone's like, "You need to calm down. You're just really anxious." But then her tongue starts to swell and she really can't breathe. So 911 is called. EMS gets there. And unfortunately, well, she died. So an autopsy is performed. And it turns out that bride number 2 was allergic to embalming fluid. And when the wife number 1 had it on her body, some of that embalming fluid got into the fabric of the dress. When wife number 2 put it on, that soaked into her skin, and she went into anaphylactic shock and died. So the funeral's happening, and wife number 1's daughters come up to the casket, and they lean down real close to her and say, "Mom told you she was going to haunt you if you tried to marry Dad, you dumb." And this is why I believe in ghosts.
So I was talking to a guy for a little while. We were hanging out, whatever. It was cool some years ago, like in my early to mid-20s, I guess I would say. I wasn't comfortable really talking about my eyes like that. So, I would just kind of like skate over the subject. But, you could look at me and tell they weren't quite, But I never went into like detail. They just knew I had an eye problem. So we have been kicking it for a while, not too long, but probably like at least like a month or two. And I don't know how we got on this subject, but he brought up when they were on the phone that he had just went to visit his mom. And somehow I became the topic of conversation. So I'm kind of like, why are you talking to your mom about me? Like, we haven't really defined anything yet, so... He was a mama's boy, his words, not mine. So I guess he's the type that like kind of tells his mom about everything that's going on in his life. So he's like, "Well, yeah, I told my mom about you and like the situation and everything like that, and about your eyes and whatnot." And I'm just like, "Okay, whatever." And he was like, "Well, she brought up a good point." And I'm like, "What point is that?" And he was like, she was saying like, "Am I really going to be comfortable being with someone that I have to take care of forever?" And I'm like, "Take care of? What you mean take care of? Like, I'm fully capable of doing things myself." And he was like, "Well, like I'll have to always be the one to drive you around or help you see things and da 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 da." So I'm kind of like, okay, like, I can do everything you can do. I just can't drive a car, basically. Mind you, we've been kicking it for, about 2 months now. And he's never once mentioned that my eyes was an issue for him. But all of a sudden, like, after the conversation with his mom, things got kind of weird. He grew distant to the point where, like, he was making up all kind of lies, I guess, to say anything to get me to leave him alone. And I'm like, so it ended up hurting my feelings, I'm not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, later on I ended up running into him, and he was like, "Well, I apologize for the way things went down, blah blah blah. I just wasn't comfortable with the situation." And that's what taught me. I took that with me, and I learned like from jump don't just lay it out on the table. Explain your eyes. If it's that big of an issue for somebody, you don't need to with them. There.
So basically, my mom was out of state for work, which was 9 hours away from where we lived, and I was just at home with my sister, my two sisters, and my stepdad. So basically, we was like kind of used as a babysitter while he go to work because it was summertime, which we, you had no problem with. That's how we, that's how most people do it. And me and my stepdad was close, so I was the only one in the house with an iPhone. And the only reason I had an iPhone is because my granddad bought me a phone so I can keep in contact with my dad's side of the family. So basically, like, this is when Candy Crush was hot, and my stepdad wanted to use my phone to play Candy Crush. So I was like, okay, well, let me use your phone to order pizza. So he gave me his phone, and when I clicked on the browser, because he had an Android, I was the only one with an iPhone. When I clicked on the browser, it was like he was on Google, when it was like female escorts in Jacksonville, Florida. Like, so when I clicked on the browser, it was like female escorts in Jacksonville, Florida. Like, he was Googling that. So my aunt had lived 2 houses down from me, and my sisters was already over there. So I had, grabbed my phone back, and I was like, I gotta go. So I went over there to my aunt house, and my sister was there, and she was in the kitchen. And I asked my sister, I was like, what's an escort? Mind you, I'm 14 years old. I really don't know what the words mean. So she was like, a prostitute. She's a year younger than me, but she's smarter than me. So my aunt was like, what? Like, who talking about prostitutes or whatever? So I told her what I seen or whatever. So after I told her what I seen, it was kind of like, me and my sister just decided to just not say 2 words to this dude. You know what I'm saying? So we go back to the house and we act like nothing ever happened. We just not like walk past him, didn't talk to him, none of that. Like, we would like go outside without asking him. Like, we would just do whatever we want to until it was time for us to go to see our mom and what she had cooking up, because she was writing a play. I try not to see it. So when we doing that 9-hour trip there, and when I tell you we don't say nothing to this man, we don't say nothing. So when we got there, it was already a problem because he was already telling my mom that we're disrespecting him, this, that, and third. So my mama made him take my phone. It was just so much in between. But like, mind you, we still didn't say a word to that man. So when we had pulled up to my granny house, that's where my mama was staying when she was, out there for work or whatever. She opens the car door and she like, you disrespecting my MFing husband. That like point me in my face like that. So I kind of get tired of it, and I was like, right, your husband cheating on you with prostitutes. And next thing I know, she popped me dead in my face. I've never been hit like that before. Hit me dead in my face, and then like that's when a little fight happened or whatever, and like got in contact with my dad, told him come pick me up, and I have never looked back.
So I was like texting this dude or whatever because I was bored. So we texting or whatever, and I'm barely texting back because I'm a bad texter. So he like, I ain't tripping on you, not texting back quick. It's cool because I know after we link, you going to be blowing my phone up. Challenge accepted. So he picks me up and we hang out, and then he takes me back home. And when I get in the house, I block his number and I follow him everywhere because you thought that was.